Welcome back to the most crafty question on English language syllabus 1123, and that is reading paper 1, question number 2 E, that deals with the reading objective. Demonstrate your understanding on how writers achieve effects and influence the readers. What you will learn from this video, we are going to walk through the specimen paper and the mark scheme, and while we examine it, we are going to zero in on the exact mistakes that we are doing, which is making a scoring less than the total of 3 marks. So grab your register and pen if you want to. Otherwise, the control of the video is in your hand. You can rewind, pause, and forward on your own wish. Okay, giving you a brief review from the first video on writer's craft is that while we are dealing with this objective, what we have to keep at the forefront of our mind is that we will be paying very close attention to figurative language or figures of speech. Then it comes to imagery. When it comes to imagery, you have to remember three things: the verbs, adverbs, and the adjectives, how they are playing around with each other to help you visualize. And then it is the sensory details, what kind of senses are evoked by the description that you have read. And in the end, this is on last of the list, but this is very important: the emotions and the feelings. What emotions and what feelings the writer is conveying through his craftfully used language. What are those and how they are affecting the character, the theme, and the setting and the atmosphere of the story. Okay, so these emotions and feelings, these are actually, you can say, the backdrop of the entire text that you are reading, and you have to be very very connected to the text in order to understand it. Okay, so here in front of you, this is a snapshot from your original specimen paper, and it says identify one example from the text below of how the writer uses language effectively to convey Mo's feelings after Mo has lost sight of the ground. Okay, so I already told you to keep at the forefront of your mind the emotions and the feelings. The writer is making the choice of the words very very skillfully over here to convey the feelings, and the passage goes like this: it felt as if he was passing through a membrane. Notice the word membrane over here. And entering another world. His senses were overwhelmed by an impression of life around. Flaky gray, green, and brownish plants in all manners of shapes hung from the branches. Drippy, frizzy, stringy, and hairy. He began picking pieces off, tucking them into his pocket. As he neared the upper surface of the redwood canopy, the lacework of branches glowed with varied shades of green, and he broke out into the sunlight. Now, the question is saying, explain the impression the writer creates in the example you have identified. Now, my dear, the things which you will be annotating over here, make a very generous use of your pencil or pen to annotate, to underline, highlight the important things, because when you are in the exam, there is a pressure of time also. This is a race against time there. So do not just be hesitant of using the paper on your text. So, one example, it is already in the bold, but you can underline it. What you have to zero in here, it is Mo's feelings after Mo has lost sight of the ground. It means he is elevated, and we have to use only one sentence over here. We have to identify one sentence over here which is skillfully used by the writer to convey his feeling. Now you will notice that this entire passage is about the feelings. We will be picking up the example which is beefy enough to give us the material, to help us produce the material. So let's start then. But let us first go through the mark scheme. What does the mark scheme say us? What are the sentences or the exam or the phrases which are given in the mark scheme? And we will see that out of all, which are tangible, which are doable for us, for any average student, which is doable, and which are the choices that we should not be, putting more attention to. Okay, children, you will see over here that among the plausible responses, seven responses are given, and out of them, the first one, and then the third one are in the form of clause. Okay, rest are in the form of phrases, and then the last one is one word. So we are not here to left anything to chances. So the safest thing is to pick the impression or the example which is in the form of a clause. Now see how the marks are awarded. 2 marks if your answer is falling correctly according to these two bullets. Clear understanding of how writer achieves intended effect. Now intended effect is the implied effect. Okay, then relevant examples precisely identified, example identified by accurate labeling. Okay, so here where the if you go back, rewind the video and pause it there where I am showing you the question there. The format of the answer goes like this: that the first the example is there, then the explanation is there. In the example you will be attending this bullet number 2, where you are identifying the relevant example as you are writing it. Okay, and then in the explanation of it you will have to give the literal meaning and the metaphorical meaning, the implied meaning, along with what sense is created by the use of those words, and then connect it to the overall context. If you do these things, then you will be awarded 3 marks. So, number one, you will identify the correct example, you will write that example. Then, in the explanation, for the safe side, you will be giving the literal meaning, the metaphorical or the intended meaning, right? And then you will be telling what senses are evoked. And then you will connect all of it to the broader context of the entire text. Okay, this is how you will be awarded 3 marks. So I'm not going to explain you 2 marks. If anything from it is missing, let's say, yeah, that you have identified the correct example, but you fail to write the metaphorical meaning, the implied meaning. Literal meaning ka to yahan literal meaning is of no use over here. Okay, so the metaphorical meaning and the senses, the sensory details it is creating for the writer, for the reader, you have to cover all. Okay, then only you are going to get the full marks, right? So, children, if we know everything, then where's the catch? Actually, when we are attempting the paper, because of the time management and because of the pressure of the test itself, we are prone to catch out on certain things, and those are selecting the relevant example from the text. Sometimes what the students do, and they tend to do this, that whatever the word appears that is fat, that is beefy, okay, that appears as a purple patch in the text, they pick it up as the evidence, but it is not like that. A simple word could be also used very masterfully. Okay, then providing a clear explanation of the writer's language use, here the understanding of the language comes in. Then supporting their explanation with specific details from the text. What the students fail to do, that whatever the explanation they are giving, they are not connecting it back to the text. This is important to do. And okay, making connections to the broader context of the story. Let's say that you have done number one, number two, number three. So you have got 3 marks, okay? But how you get the distinction? Okay, there is always something extra. Okay, extra, a seasoning and extra sprinkling of cheese. Okay, that gives you a distinct style. Okay, so this is how we get on to the distinctions. So if you are connecting the entire answer with the broader context of the whole passage, this is how that in that particular question you might be given the distinction. Okay, but of course this distinction comes when you get the marks on over. So what are the key points to remember here? Pick the word and tell the feeling that it conveys. read the entire text, and you will easily be able to tap on the right emotion. Identify whether the literary meaning or the metaphorical meaning is being conveyed. Describe how the chosen example evokes specific emotions, sensations, or mental images. Okay, that is visualization, that is again the imagery. Then select a clear and impactful example. As I told you, do not go on picking on the phrases because it will be very difficult for you to connect them with the broader context or to tell whether what is the implied meaning or not. So again, I'm repeating, do not leave anything to chances, give the best shot. So you can see over here that I have picked up the response which has two clauses in it so that I can come up with a well developed answer. I have got enough meat here. His senses were overwhelmed by an impression of life around. So, first of all, I will pick this clause, this that his senses were overwhelmed. You will see here in the explanation that I have written the phrases senses were overwhelmed, that Mo is completely immersed in his surroundings. By the way, the literal meaning of overwhelmed is to be overpowered, feeling completely numb, feeling completely carried away by the certain emotion. That is the meaning, the literal meaning of overwhelmed. So, of course, his senses were overwhelmed by an impression of life all around. Now, impression means over here the idea, the feeling, the fascination about something. Okay, so I have used these two words over here to develop my answer. And you can see the word impression implies that Mo is not only observing his surroundings but also deeply affected by him. Again, the idea and the feeling is developed. This conveys a sense of awe and wonder. Now, impression and overwhelmed are connected. And how do I come up with this explanation that he is in awe and wonder? By connecting it with the context. Now, further, I have explained the use of the word overwhelmed adds to the emotional intensity, indicating that Mo has experienced something extraordinary and beyond what he expected. Overall, the language creates the impression of Mo being in a transformative and captivating world, overwhelmed by the senses. Okay, he is outnumbered, he is overpowered in whatever he is thinking. He cannot think properly. He has just immersed himself in that new world. That new world has created such a strong impression on him. Okay, so this is how you are going to develop your answer. So 1 mark you will get for correctly identifying the example, and then the 2 marks you will get to give the metaphorical and the implied meaning, and then how to connect it with the senses that the writer want to evoke in you, and then connecting it with the background text. Another model example that I have picked is as if he was passing through a membrane. Now, the use of the word membrane implies a thin and very delicate barrier that separates two distinct places. Of course, you know that he was first on the ground and then he climbed up the tree, and there he is exploring himself in a very different world, the world of leaves, the world of branches. Okay, and so it's a very different feeling, and he gets disconnected from the world from where he was coming. Okay, so that connection is done through a barrier, and that barrier is called here a memory. In the given passage creates a metaphorical image to describe Mo's experience of ascending through the redwood canopy. Now, what does it suggest? The senses. Now, the next point is to tell about the senses, a sense of transition and crossing a boundary into a different realm of the world. Okay, in biology also you must have studied about the membrane that it diffuses, isn't it? It diffuses the solutions from it. Then, this metaphorical language adds depth and vividness to the atmosphere, capturing the sense of, again, awe and wonder that Mo experiences as he moves through the redwood canopy. So, you see over here in both of the examples, I have tried to give in you the right, You can say the rule of thumbs that you should follow, and if you follow, you will get the full marks, inshallah. Thank you, viewers. If you have any difficulty in understanding any of the reading objective and you need extra assistance, you can email me on this given address and I'll send you the worksheets, okay, which I have specifically designed. Those are tailor-made worksheets addressing all the reading objectives and the writing objectives of English language 1123. Moreover, I teach English literature also of O levels and A levels. So if you want the lessons on those, do tell me in your comments, and I'll continue making videos on these topics. Thank you.